I have a right to access this building just like anybody else. Why can't there be a ramp here?
Imagine attempting to navigate a world where you are shut out of school, work, and public life, not because of ability, but because of inaccessibility. For millions of people in the United States, this was an everyday reality before Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. Kitty Cohn grew up in the South, using a wheelchair in a world built without her in mind. She wasn't taught about inequality in books, she lived it. Her life experience gave her a deep understanding of the urgent need for change. That awareness drove her lifelong work to build a society where people with disabilities can live with independence, dignity, and equal rights. She played a key leadership role in organizing one of the most significant civil rights protests in American history, the 504 sit-in. Before Section 504, people with disabilities were often excluded from schools, jobs, and everyday public spaces. There were no national protections to stop discrimination. Elevators, curb cuts, and sign language interpreters were dismissed as luxuries. But for people with disabilities, these tools weren't optional. They were necessary for everyday life. Drawing inspiration from the civil rights movement, disability advocates, including Kitty Cohn, believed deeply in the power of unity to create change. They understood the issue went beyond money. It was a matter of justice. When the government delayed putting Section 504 into practice, it wasn't just a matter of pace. It was a neglect of responsibility. Section 504, part of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, was the first federal law to protect people with disabilities from discrimination. It stated that any program receiving federal funding could not exclude or treat people with disabilities unfairly. It was a historic step forward, but for 4 years, the government delayed turning the promise of the law into action. That delay sparked frustration and galvanized communities to respond. This wasn't only about paperwork. The delay revealed a deeper truth. The government was neglecting its responsibility to treat disability rights with the urgency they deserved. The Nixon and Ford administrations failed to move the process forward. Later, under President Carter, Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare Joseph Califano was asked to approve the long-awaited regulations. Still, he waited. Califano later said,
I was left with a very complex, prolix, confusing set of regulations. It had taken the department about 2.5 or 3 years to produce that set of regulations. It took us about 2.5 to 3 months to rewrite them. I'm glad I took the 50 or so hours. I'm convinced the regulations we've issued are right. And when I say 50 hours that I myself took on them, I'm convinced that the regulations we issued are right. I'm prepared to stand behind them. I'm prepared to enforce them.
But to many, his explanation confirmed what they already knew. The government was not taking its responsibility seriously. While he spent 50 hours deciding what to do, people with disabilities continue to face real barriers in education, employment, and public life. For Kitty Cohn and others, the delay made one thing clear. If they wanted change, they would have to demand it. On April 5th, 1977, a determined group of advocates walked into the San Francisco Federal Building, never imagining they would remain inside for nearly a month. They were not alone. Children, parents, deaf and blind advocates, and many others joined forces, demanding that Section 504 be put into action. Corbett O'Toole shared,
I showed up at the United Nations Plaza on the day of the demonstration, basically to show my support to my community. I was not sure what was going to happen that day, and I ended up going into the building on that day, and I didn't come out until the last day.
Some arrived that very day. Others, like Kitty Cohn, had spent months organizing the protest and building critical partnerships. She coordinated how people would stay safe, be fed, and make their voices heard. Everyone inside made a powerful statement by staying true to the testament of the cause. Annie Rosewater recalled,
I called my boss and said, I won't be coming to my childcare job for a while, and I moved into the building with 150 other people.
For many with disabilities, this protest was the first time they saw themselves not as isolated, but as part of a strong, united community. Kitty Cohn's leadership gave that community focus and courage. Kitty Cohn remembered,
the thing I remember the most is our victory march out of the building and to a rally. People were saying for the first times in their lives, they felt proud of themselves. I'm disabled and I'm beautiful.
As the sit-in continued, Kitty Cohn took on a vital leadership role. She organized daily meetings, coordinated plans, and made sure everyone had the essentials: food, medical care, interpreters, and media coverage. One of her most important partnerships was with the Black Panther Party. The Black Panthers didn't only deliver meals. They showed up as committed allies, listening, learning, and standing in solidarity with the disability rights movement. Kitty Cohn helped build the support because she understood that the fight for disability rights was part of a larger responsibility to achieve justice for all. Despite limited resources and difficult conditions, the protesters remained inside the building for 26 days, the longest sit-in at a federal building in U.S. history. Throughout the protest, Kitty Cohn kept people motivated and unified. She reminded everyone that they weren't asking for special treatment. They were demanding the government fulfill its responsibility to protect their civil rights. On April 28, 1977, after 26 days of unwavering protests, the government finally implemented the Section 504 regulations. This marked a historic victory for disability rights, a powerful example of how activism and persistence can hold those in power accountable to their responsibilities. Yet the battle was far from over. Every new administration questioned enforcement of these regulations, often citing costs as an excuse to delay action. Still, disability advocates refused to back down. They continued demanding that the government fulfill its responsibility to guarantee equal access and protect civil rights for all. Their relentless dedication paved the way for the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, a law that affirmed the rights and responsibilities essential to creating a more just society. Kitty Cohn didn't stop after the sit-in. She dedicated her life to advocacy, working to ensure future generations would inherit both the rights they deserved and the protections that come with government responsibility. The 504 sit-in wasn't exclusively about one law. It was a turning point, a moment when the disability community came together to demand what was rightfully theirs. Section 504 became the foundation for future progress in disability rights, making schools, workplaces, and public spaces more accessible. But these changes didn't happen automatically. They happened because people like Kitty Cohn took action. Kitty Cohn's work didn't end in 1977. She spent her life holding those in power accountable, reminding the government of its responsibility to protect the rights of all people. She fought for better accessibility, stronger employment protections, and real representation. Her courage and vision helped make our country more just, and her legacy reminds us that progress is never guaranteed. We inherit both the rights others fought for and the responsibility to defend them. The work isn't finished, because equality isn't a moment, it's a movement. And it starts with us.
Civil rights were knocking at our door, but Carter wouldn't stand on 504. Keep your eye on the prize and hold on. Well, a movement standing strong and tight, with one dream to win our civil rights. Keep your eye on the prize and hold on. Now you carry it. Keep your eye on the prize. Hold on.